Today we get to cover one of my personal favorite blades in the game, Gorg. Gorg was designed by Takahashi's wife and may bear a bit of a resemblance to a popular anime franchise, even if that was not intended. In combat, he has some unique properties and support abilities that no other blade can offer, which make him a useful blade in specific circumstances and a decent blade if your goal is to win a more drawn-out fight. He is a defensive attack blade. That is the best terms I can put it, and a decent option to consider in combat even if he has some of the lowest damage output of the class. His focus is less about damage and more about support and defense, but he can still hit pretty hard, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at Gorg, discussing all of his strengths and weaknesses, and seeing how to use him most effectively. As always, if you enjoy my guide content and are looking forward to even more Xenoblade 2 guides and content, please subscribe to my channel because it does help me out so much. Let's get into it. So Gorg is a great axe type weapon, which means he has some pretty solid stats, including a very high auto attack stat of 1697 with the Tachyon core chip, along with a critical hit rate that can max out at 40% with the Moon Matter core chip. His block rate is nothing spectacular, but that isn't all that important as you might expect. His defenses, as noted here, are a bit inaccurate, as it is technically only 20% physical and 20% ether, which is among the best for offensive blades, and tied with blades like Cosmos and Telos. In truth, he has some skills that make him one of the tankiest blades in the entire game, despite being an offensive blade. His stat mod is a 15% max HP mod, which means he'll make his driver even tankier and harder to kill, and his cooldown is 4, which is about the average. Let's take a look at his skill tree and see what he has to offer there. Gorg's first skill is FAS. I have no idea what this is or any of his other skills stand for, and the code doesn't help either, so we're just going to call it FAS. This increases his damage to aquatic enemies by 40% at level 1, rising up to 80% at level 5. This skill is overall pretty bad. Aquatic enemies are not a common enemy type overall, so there's a large number of situations this skill will be doing nothing for you. I guess it's okay against those enemies, and can give him a bit of a niche against them, but then you remember a lot of aquatic enemies are probably going to be water element, which means your damage is going to be cut against them anyway, since Gorg is also water element. That makes this skill a bit weird overall, and probably one of the least useful damage increases in the game, and certainly not a skill that's going to help in most situations. Gorg's second skill is IMD. This raises his physical defense by 5% at level 1, rising up to 15% at level 5. This is why Gorg's physical defense was 35% on his stats screen. Having an extra 15% damage reduction for physical attacks isn't bad by any means, but it being a skill instead of just an inherent stat of Gorg is a bit unfortunate because this could have been a skill that did something else. I get he's an attack blade, so maybe it was just supposed to be for balancing purposes, but Gorg would not have been overbearing at all if he just had 35% defense straight up and a different skill here. Still, this skill does help him fulfill his role as a more tanky offensive blade, and speaking of which, his last skill does this the best. FTL will reduce all damage the party takes by 10% at level 1 and 20% at level 5 when at max affinity. A 20% flat damage reduction for the entire party is actually pretty powerful as a support ability. It may not seem like it at first glance since it's purely defensive, and yes, this won't make Gorg useful when going for optimal and fast times, but being able to reduce all damage the party takes with Gorg being tanky himself makes him a great blade to use in tough fights you're having difficulty surviving in. Gorg can win battles, even if it's a bit slower. In fact, this skill is particularly useful on higher difficulties where enemy attack power is higher, and can help allies and yourself live in situations you might not have been able to otherwise. It's honestly a really good ability that most people don't pay that much attention to, and combining it with something like Cosmos' self-damage reduction, you can create some seriously tanky blades that can survive the most dangerous attacks in the game, and win any fights with any form of consistent healing. All around, this is a great skill for being one of the only ways to reduce party damage, and can help a lot of weaker and squishier blades tremendously. This is probably the main reason to use Gorg. Let's take a look at his specials. Gorg's level 1 special is Innocent Teardrop. This is an ether-based special that is only a single hit. That single hit is decently fast, and other than that, this special kinda sucks. Its damage ratio is pretty average at 300 at level 1, 460 at level 5, and 480 at max affinity. It has no special modifier, and its bonus effect is probably useless most of the time, just increasing affinity by 100 when used. Considering you're likely to be at max affinity thanks to Hunter's chemistry and just how easy it is to get in general, that's a disappointing bonus effect that isn't really going to be doing much in most situations. It's okay if you need a quick water special, I guess. Gorg's level 2 special is Bittersweet Dreams. This is another ether-based special that has 3 hits and has a decent area of effect radius. The damage ratio is below average this time, around at 400 at level 1, 560 at level 5, and 580 at max affinity, and the bonus effect is once again not all that useful. It will reduce aggro by 40% when used, which is decent enough for aggro reduction, but Gorg doesn't really need to reduce aggro, and it would be much more useful to have a different bonus effect on this special. If there is a good thing, it's got okay speed and a 25% critical hit modifier, along with a good radius to hit multiple enemies, so that's something, I guess, but still not all that spectacular overall. Gorg's level 3 special is Leave Me Alone. This has one of the funniest names for a special at the very least, but outside of that, it is pretty unspectacular. For one, the damage ratio is below average, once again being 500 at level 1, 660 at level 5, and 680 at max affinity. In addition to this, it has no special modifiers at all, no area of effect, and the bonus effect likely isn't going to be too useful since it's bonus damage to toppled enemies, but the special takes too long to get the full benefit of this. It's not a great special by any means, and truth be told, neither of his 3 specials are, sadly. At least he's still got good utility for the party, right? Gorg's level 4 special is Rock My World. I think they're just being mean to the poor dude at this point, because this is one of the few level 4 specials without any bonus effect at all. Life is harsh sometimes, but at the very least it has a damage ratio of 1000, which is decent enough, and has a 20% critical hit modifier, which is okay, I guess. It is still a level 4, so fusion combos and invincibility are always nice side effects. Surprisingly, all of his specials are disappointing, which means you can kinda just use them as you want for combo coverage, but none really have amazing uses in a lot of situations. I guess Gorg really is just about his defensive utility. At least he excels there. For setup, I am running the Tachyon core chip on Gorg. Tachyon is a great core chip for Axe Blades because of the extra critical damage it offers, which usually is more beneficial than the extra crit rate the Moon Matter provides, and this is no exception. Gorg can benefit greatly for crit damage, just like other axes. For Aux cores, I'm keeping it simple with the Affinity Max attack because it's always a universally good effect, and combining that with the Night Vision Aux core to ensure my driver combos and attacks will properly land. If accuracy is not an issue, feel free to use another damage boost or Affinity Max Barrier, which are always good choices and work well with Gorg. In the accessory department, Crimson Headband is a great choice for increasing critical damage even further, and is especially useful when combined with blades like Fiora, who boost crit rate even further, and combo well with Gorg's water element. This is great as a damage increase on Gorg. Divine Vambraces are also a great general damage increase should you want that, and not something more specific or supportive like Burst Symbol. And then Noise Dampener will make your arts hit like a truck, even with the weakest damage an Axe Blade can have, like Gorg. If you really want to load up on survivability, Survivor's Footgear can give you even more insane damage reduction, and it can be a fantastic strategy on higher difficulties where the goal is to just survive. Otherwise, it's probably overkill, so damage multipliers is always good. For pouch items, Art Recharge is a very good effect, as you might expect. Zeke likes meat and Gorg likes dessert, so you can easily get a good combination with them. With all that done, let's take a look at how to use Gorg practically. So being an Axe Blade, I think Gorg works really well with blades like Fiora, because that can increase his crit rate and give him a ton of extra crit damage thanks to the bonus effect of the Tachyon core chip, and just the really powerful crit effects like Berserker Slash and Raging Charge that Gorg has inherently with the Axe kit. So with his damage reduction, even if he manages to get aggro, he's not going to take that much damage, and he can also reduce damage of any character that gets aggro, meaning that you're not really going to have that much of a tough time with pretty much any kind of enemy in this game. It may not be the absolute fastest option for killing enemies in this game, but he's very, very serviceable in his role, for sure. Since Fiora is a Wind Blade, you can pretty easily get a Final Disaster if you got just an Earth Blade to buffer between, and as you know, PewDiePie is just the perfect blade to buffer for everyone, and she's also a great Earth Blade in general if you choose to make her one, so yeah, that works out really well because Gorg has a great topple art on Zeke with Spinning Elbow, and that just works all out perfectly since Tor can do the break and the launch himself. You can see right here, once you get into the chain attack, you shouldn't really have that much issues killing enemies. Even without the fusion combo or really any burst symbol power, we can still kind of kill the rest of Tyranitytan's health bar just because S plus trust and the extra special damage is just that broken. So yeah, Gorg, really, really easy to take advantage of. This isn't really showing all that much, I understand. This is just kind of the control group, if you will. But outside of this, I'm going to show him off in the Ninth Imperial Armored Division, that's considered the hardest challenge by difficulty in the game. It's got some pretty annoying enemies. They can do a lot of damage to you, and it's just overall something that it's one of the harder challenges for sure. Ironically, we'll be facing another Kurodal enemy, but this one's a much more difficult enemy. Gorg is actually particularly useful against this enemy because his Enraged State cuts ether damage, and Gorg does mostly physical damage. Some of his specials have ether damage on it, so it's not really all that amazing. Thanks to his defense, though, he's not really too hurt by the spike damage, and Kurodal's auto attack is like not even hurting him like at all, only like 500 damage per hit. So you're really not in that much danger with Gorg here. And you can kind of do a very similar strategy using Tor's Pandemic and Fior's Final Disaster. And if you really need a second orb, you can always just water with Gorg at the same time if you really need that to kill an enemy. But overall, with allies supporting you, with the damage reduction Gorg has, and with just general strong damage all around on the party, you probably aren't going to have that many issues. You can see Tor is basically taking no damage either, thanks to that really strong buff that Gorg provides to the entire party there. And when you have Fiora on top of everything else, not only doing a bunch of damage at the same time, but also having a flat healing art on Morag that's easy to take advantage of and heal the party up, you're pretty much invincible. Even on Bringer of Chaos, you probably wouldn't have that much trouble with this kind of party setup. Especially if you got good break resist reduction on Tor with like Master Scope, everything like that. If you got Spike Defense on everyone just for extra safety as well, you'd have virtually no issues. And yeah, Gorg is just all around a very, very solid blade as far as just keeping the party alive, in a sense, not in a healing sense, but just reducing damage taken, meaning you can really take on some strong enemies without having to worry about much. And if you want to go a traditional party, set up tank, attack, and healer, and you have Gorg as your attack blade, you're gonna be surviving pretty much every situation, because you'll have a consistent, reliable healing, you'll have Gorg reducing the damage everyone takes, and your tank is just gonna be there tanking up damage as well, which is always a good thing. So that chain attack didn't quite kill him, but the blade combo that I have access to is gonna be enough to just finish him off here without that much issues. Like, Fiora's Final Disaster could be plenty of damage here on the topple to finish this fight for sure. Or on the launch, actually. I think Gorg is a really, really good blade for the things he offers to the party, and I'm going to show off more of his defensive prowess and how impressive it can be a little bit later here. So if you are aware of the maximum custom difficulty settings, enemies can have up to 250% their normal attack power, which is really insane. It increases their damage by quite a bit. But if you combine Gorg's passive with some things like Cosmos' damage reduction and the Survivor's Footgear, you can just almost cut that damage entirely and not really have to worry about all that much. So in this challenge, as you see, the Ardanian Sharper is always the most annoying enemy. You gotta run all the way over to him just to fight him. I always find this enemy really annoying. This is why I had to kill Tyranotitan before they spawned in. Otherwise, it would have just been a pain to have to deal with him cutting party meter and doing a bunch of damage with his attack. And then the last little phase of this section is really, really easy. Just some Ardanian musses who go down really, really quickly. So yeah, Gorg, pretty much any challenge you bring him to, as long as you're careful of like status effects like Doom that can instantly kill you, you're not really in that much danger. Even an attack like Immovable Air Carlos' Wild Wave, if you've got the proper defense ready for it, you won't even die from it. And that's really impressive, because that's one of the strongest attacks. That is the strongest attack in the entire game, I think. That attack just straight up destroys you. The Kamehameha Wave, basically. So those are just the maximum custom settings. I don't plan on showcasing this entire fight. I just want to showcase how Cosmos passive and the Gorg passive works together. I've got Gorg on Morag in this right now. And you're seeing, even with the maximum amount of damage, this Tyranotitan's auto attacks are only doing like 500 each, and the Twin Barrel Autocannon's not really doing that much either. With just some consistent healing and just all the damage reduction I've got stacked with Survivor's Footgear, Cosmos' 30% damage reduction passive, and then Gorg's passive, I'm able to just consistently hit him in this fight and eventually kill him, even on the maximum setting, even with no driver combos and no evasion. This was kind of really restricted just to show that you can face tank even the strongest enemies in the game, and that's kind of what I wanted to show off with Gorg here. I'm not controlling Gorg in this section, because I think you already see how to control him and have success with him, so I just wanted to quickly show this off so that you can really just not had that many issues if you know what you're doing in this game. And yeah, I think Gorg's passive to give defense to the party or reduce damage is it's very uncommon. And no other blade, well, there's one other blade who has something similar, but no other blade really has something like Gorg has to just cut flat damage, and that gives him a useful niche and a defensive utility that no other blade has. It's not something that comes into play very often, but again, on these harder difficulties, when enemies do more damage, you should not underestimate how valuable that passive can be, and it's something that makes Gorg really, really unique, and actually a pretty decent option. Like I said, Gorg, he's only C tier, because he's not going to be optimal, because he doesn't really do that much damage, and you're not really worried about having damage reduced in optimal situations, but Gorg is still really powerful. He's got some utility that no other blade can offer, and I think that makes him a pretty solid option, and I like Gorg. He's got a cool personality, he's got a cool design, and I like his defensive niche for an axe blade, an offensive blade. So yeah, that covers Gorg. I hope you guys learned something from watching this video, and if you did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below, and look forward to the remaining blade guides. We're almost at the end here. Only got about 11 of these left, I believe. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this series and look forward to all of my guides in the future. Thank you guys so much for watching once again, and have a blessed day, and I'll see you soon.